We're here with Krayton Nash, who got the opportunity to go down to the 2019 Basketball Coaches Academy down in Tampa, Florida. And Krayton, just kind of give us a rundown of what that was like and what was the whole Basketball Academy thing for?
Basically, it was talking about all facets of running a collegiate basketball program. It was a great opportunity. I want to thank our AD, Steph Helgeson, for allowing me to be a part of that. She's always supported my professional development, and I appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you to her for allowing me to do that. It was great. I was down there. It was a 2-day thing, but it didn't seem like 2 days. It was from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, basically. But they had different speakers that came on, and we talked from everything about culture all the way down to the X's and O's of running a program and talking about the student athlete.
So what was that like for you I'm sure there were some big names down there, a lot of big colleges probably. So what was that like for you to were you starstruck a little bit with some of the coaches down there or no?
Well, actually, it wasn't really, to my surprise, it wasn't a big name thing. There were coaches from all over the country. They only picked 30. They were men's and women's teams. From D1 all the way to D3, and so it was just a mixture of different people that are kind of up and comers in the business, so to speak. They did have a big name speaker at the end, Kevin Eastman, who used to be the assistant coach with Doc Rivers, both in Boston and with the LA Clippers, and it was exciting to get to meet him and talk to him. I read his book earlier this year. I was telling the people, man, I wish you would have let us know that ahead of time because I would have brought it to sign. But he was very gracious with his time. He went through his presentation, and then even afterwards got to eat dinner with him. And he sat down and just shared some NBA stories, and he shared stories from his background and everything like that. So it was cool to be able to sit and talk and network with
pick his brain a little bit.
Yeah, with him and with all the other men and women. I made some contacts there that I'll be talking. I'm sure I'll be talking to them for years to come.
So what was the process like to get nominated? To not only get nominated, but then also be picked. What was that like for you? Is it a month-long thing, a 6-month-long thing? What's that like for the nomination to get to go down to Florida?
Well, basically, you had to fill out an application. And then they needed your resume, and then there was a series of questions that you had to ask about, your career and why you chose this path and everything like that. And then basically the cutoff was like, I think it was in February. We were still in the thick of the season, so I, got everything together, answered the questions, and did it as quickly as possible. And then after that, they said, by March 28th or so, we're gonna pick who we're gonna choose to go down there. And so I got all of my information in, and then I got an email just saying, hey, if you're interested, you've been selected. And of course, I jumped right on that right away. Told Steph about it, and she was 100% behind it. So that's kind of how it went. And real fast because I just happened to find it, because I'm always seeking out new opportunities to grow. That's why my website, is Kaizen Basketball. Kaizen is the Japanese word for continuous improvement. So I'm always looking for things that might help me grow and help me be a better coach and help the student athletes here at Princeton and wherever I might be in the future and everything. And so I saw that, jumped on it, and things just happened quickly.
Awesome. I'm looking at your schedule here. There's a lot of interesting things that you went. One of the things that I was interested in is your why. So what's the why for you, and what did you learn about during that time from the why segment? What did you learn from that time that you can maybe take into the future basketball season?
Well, that was, I don't want to mess his name up, but that was Bob Gelini is the name of the coach, and he's from Denison, which is a D3 school in Ohio. And he talked about your why and having your principal values, that no matter what happens, you stick with your principal values, and that's what's going to help guide your decisions, especially the tough decisions. And so, my why, to make a long story short, grew up, both my parents were teachers. Had it not been for basketball, I never wouldn't have been here because my dad played basketball at a small college in Nebraska. My mom happened to go to that same small college. They met, you know, long story short,
Things happen, yep.
here I am. They both are teachers, they're both educators, they both have been servant leaders. And servant leadership has been something that's always been taught to me growing up. You know, you always want to see how to make the people around you better. That's how this world becomes a better place. It's something that we're not seeing a whole lot of nowadays with the climate of you know, how things are going.
Right.
But that is something that was discussed in that session. You know, talking about how, like, you know, coaching college basketball, you see what's going on with the trial and everything, and those aren't, like, those are all ethical things that's going on. Those coaches made choices, and those choices were based on something that's based on their why. And my why, which I came in there with and was reinforced after listening to Bob talk about everything, has always been about servant leadership. You know, how can I make these people better? You know, how can I make, you know, guys like Harrison Cleary and Chase Knickerbocker and guys like that better? What can I add to them? Because that's essentially what us coaches are here for. You know, it's not about us. It's about you know, them and making sure that they get better, and then in turn it makes everybody else better.
Absolutely, yeah. I know that's one of your big whys, getting a lot of your kids better, a lot of student athletes better. But Krayton, you said there were only 30 coaches or so down there, correct? So what was that like for you to be at Minnesota Crooks and be one of those 30 coaches to be selected, go down there? Because not, like you said, not everyone gets to go down there. So what does that feel for you that, hey, maybe I'm getting up in the ranks in the coaching world?
That really was a boost in the arm. You know, I've been doing this for 15 years. You know, I don't hide it from anybody. My goal is to be a college head coach someday. I have been a head coach before at the prep school level, and have been fortunate enough to have some players play under me that have done some really good things. But to get selected for that kind of made me feel like I'm on the right path. You know, I'm doing something right. So.
And I think it's interesting, Krayton, you said 15 years you've been at it. It's not like, you know, you come right out of college and you get to jump right at head coaching ranks, right? You got to basically work your way, grind to it, and then you're on the path to doing what you want to do, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. So, Krayton, what are you going to take from this academy into the next season for Minnesota Crooks? And what are you going to take from learning things down there? What are you going to take? What are some of the main points you're going to take that will help Minnesota Crooks in the next season?
Well, I believe, you know, basically sticking to my personal values, how I coach the student athletes from, you know, the assistant role and everything, and the relationships that I have with the guys and how I attack each relationship. Because, you know, everybody wants to be treated the same. But really, you can only treat everybody fair. You can't really treat everybody the same because you've got different personalities and everything like that. And I take pride in really getting to know the guys and know what's going on with them beyond basketball and getting them to feel comfortable with me, so that during the season, you know, when things are going on, you know, I can hold them accountable and they know where I'm coming from and they don't look at me sideways or anything from that. And this Leadership Academy was just very significant in reestablishing and reinforcing the beliefs that I've had.
So obviously, so Krayton, obviously this was a leadership academy, right, to get, you know, leadership skills down. But you talked about the X's and O's a little bit, that you guys worked on that stuff. So what were some of the X's and O's things? You have to obviously know the X's and O's to be a coach. So what were some of the X's and O's things that you learned down there as well?
Well, we had the University of Maine head coach there, and he had the unique ability of moving from the women's side to the men's side. So he's coached both teams, Division I team. And what he really talked about was how they run their, what we call secondary break, basically. You know, your primary break is you push the ball up the floor, you try to get the easiest basket as possible. And then there's a secondary break to where if you don't get a score right away, then there's actions that you can run to try to score. And then after that, teams can do a number of things. They can pull the ball out and run a play, or get right into their motion offense, however they like to play, whatever style or whatever philosophy the coach has. Well, he was showing how their secondary break and the keys and the concepts and what they have their players look at flow into their offense and everything. So there's not necessarily set calls. It's just a matter of what they see and how they react and how the defense plays and everything like that. So it was pretty intricate. A couple things that I've never really thought about that he brought up that was a light bulb moment.
So maybe something you could take into the upcoming basketball season then? Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. We had to look at our personnel and see, how everything fits.
So Krayton, did this help with the tennis side of things too? Obviously, you had tennis coach here at Minnesota Crookston. Did that help a little bit too, this Leadership Academy?
Absolutely. It was basketball specific because there were a lot of basketball coaches and everything. But whenever you're talking about running a team, I don't care if it's a team or an organization, it's all about the people.
Right.
It's all about, managing the relationships and the day-to-day things and getting to know people.
Right.
And, it doesn't matter what sport you pick up on, knowing how to effectively communicate and effectively establish, build relationships is what's ultimately going to dictate what success that you have.
Right. So lastly, Krayton, just what did this mean to you? What did this trip mean to you? Obviously a trip of a lifetime for you to go down there in the assistant coaching ranks and go down there. So what did this trip mean to you, maybe not only on a professional level, but also personally for you?
Well, from a professional standpoint, obviously making the connections, networking, meeting some new people. I did meet somebody that I met at the Final Four that was there and got to talk with her and everything. From a personal standpoint, it's always about growing. I had a coach tell me one time, the minute you think you know everything, quit.
Right.
And I see the value of these things, and to be able to go and attend something like this, it means the world to me to be able to self-grow, to be able to look from within and self-reflect what's valuable to me and how I would go about things. And sooner or later, I'm going to get an opportunity to run my own college program, and I feel like these type of things give me the right weapons to attack it. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that was Krayton Nash. He's getting up there in the assistant coaching ranks, and he had the great opportunity to go down to Tampa, Florida for Leadership Academy, and we're glad to have you, Krayton. So hopefully you're here at Minnesota Crookston for a while.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
All right, that was Krayton Nash.